just as promised, I've stripped the balance cock from the Hamilton 992 movement I have, and I noticed something the other day. First thing is that if you can see the regulator here, the screw in the top of the regulator actually broke that screw, and luckily I had a sacrifice movement, which is always a good thing, and I was able to just put the sacrifice movement in its place. So that was the first thing that happened. Now the second thing is, in looking at this movement again, I noticed that first of all the regulator arms are still spread too far, right? So if I just get a close-up on that, and you see those regulator arms here, so those little tiny arms that go up and down, they're way too far apart, right? Which means that when you've got the hairspring in there, it should be as tight as possible but not squeezing it. So I can fix that, push those together a bit. And if you look at the regulator arms in this direction here, they tend to sweep backwards. It's hard to see with this camera, but you can see they're sweeping backwards ever so slightly, and that would cause me to lose time on the watch because of that sweeping backward motion. So I'm going to bend these arms together a bit, and I'm going to pull them back a bit without snapping them. That's the danger here I have. I just have to be very careful while I'm doing this. I believe that I can squeeze them together with a good pair of tweezers. I don't want to use pliers because pliers are going to be a little bit too coarse for this job. So I do have these tweezers that I showed you that I picked up at Cardon Tools, C-A-R-D-O-N. Look at them. Look for them online. They're a great tool company up here in Canada. These are OC-9 stainless steel, anti-magnetic, original, voila, made in Italy. So these are great for picking splinters out of your body and all kinds of stuff. Now I don't want to do this unless I'm under, I will basically squeeze these together, and I don't want to do this unless I'm under my microscope. So I got to go under a microscope and squeeze those together and then look at how much they should go bend backwards, or bend forward rather, and that might help me with the actual regulation of this watch. So we're going to do that right now and see what happens once I reassemble the mainspring. I've got the mainspring. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. There's the mainspring and the hairspring just sitting there minding their own business, which are also fantastic. And I'll look at the coils of the hairspring, but I believe they're perfect right now. So we'll have a look at that and we'll reassemble that. But let me go adjust these jobby doohickeys right now. There, it's adjusted now. This is not what's adjusted, this is the balance. But another note here is that a gentleman called Nickel Silver told me that look for some timing washers in here as well. And guess what? I found 2 timing washers on this watch, on this balance. One of them is over on this side right over here, and the other one's on the opposite side. So I'm going to remove those timing washers because that would slow down the watch. So I didn't see that before, so that's excellent. I changed the gap and the separation of the pins, the 2 pins that the hairspring goes through, so that's done. That's looking really good. Let me look at that for a second, see if I can show you that. I'm not sure if I can show you that. So let's look at that, but I'm really excited that I've actually found these 2 timing washers. So there's Mr. Hairspring. So there's Mr. Balance Cock here. You got to give them names, otherwise they're not relevant. So, and I actually changed that gap. If you can see that gap, it's now really tight, and that should help me because the hairspring is supposed to go through there and not, I repeat, not jam up the hairspring, but be loose enough so there's no issue with respect to its timing. So you don't want the hairspring to be rattling back and forth like this as it's pulsating between the regulator pins. So this job is done. Now I'm going to get the balance here, and I'm going to remove the 2 timing washers. Now I might be able to do that. Now I'm going to still do that under microscope just to be safe, but I'm going to use this tool here. This grabs the screw and then take the screw off, and then get that timing washer off and put the screw back, and do that with both sides. And then I should have I should save a few seconds there. Maybe it'll get it inside where I want it to be. So let's go and do that, and I'll be right back. There, I want to put the balance on a block here so I can have control of turning those screws, so I can remove the screws. I might be able to do this not under microscope, just to show you how it's done. Let me see if I can manage that without screwing it up. Somebody asked me online, first of all, thanks to Nickel Silver out there on Watch Repair Talk, because I think he's the guy that said, hey buddy, check for timing washers. I think it was him. And then a shout out to other people out there that like Sonny Morehouse has been going back and forth with me on this stuff, and as I look at the balance here and I can see which one of these screws has a timing washer. I could easily see it under the microscope, but I don't think I can see it like this. Where is that screw with the timing washer? I think it's this one right here. Looks like it's this one right here. So it would be the other side as well. And I would just take that off and then have a peek at it and see if there is a timing washer on that. And my God, it looks like there is. I think I will do this under the microscope just for safety reasons, because I can get really close and not have to worry about fouling anything. But all I'm going to do is take that screw out and take the washer out and then put the screw back in. So I'm going to go away and do that and be a safe boy. All right, here I am. Here I am, folks. Here I am with the microscope. I put a new camera in there just for the hell of it. And I might be able to move that a bit closer. This is really hard for me to adjust because I don't have the cameras set up properly to do this. So I'm just trying to see what I can accomplish here. If I do that and then move that up a bit, just get that completely aligned, then there's a possibility of videotaping this. So here we go. So I'm going to look under the microscope now, and I've got the balance on a block here, and I've got to zoom in the microscope to make sure I am removing what I think has washers, which, as I'm looking at it right now, I can see this one right here has a dial washer. So I want to grab that very carefully, and I don't want to disturb anything. The good thing is the roller table fits, and of course I'm blocking this with my hands, but I've got to do it this way. I'm sorry, but this is the way it has to be done. I don't see if I can get any closer and down. Maybe I can do that. I'm just going to adjust this while you guys are watching. So I'm going to come in from the side like that. And will that work? Will that work? Sort of. Just do this here a little bit, and that is about as good as I'm going to get it. And can you still see that? Of course, my hands are still in the way, right? But I have no choice. So TOOBAD. But all I'm going to do is grab that very loosely. So now you don't want to handle the balance too much when you're grabbing this, because this is sticking nicely or sitting nicely within a I do have to stabilize it a bit. It's sitting nicely within the block. I should be able to grab this without putting too much pressure on the balance itself. And then I just put my fingers over this so I can rotate this, and there we go. It's coming out. And I can see the dial washer that's in there. So there's the screw, and there's a dial washer over the top of that. And now I have to separate that dial washer from the screw. And what I'll do is grab the smallest screwdriver I have, and just put that down and see if I can pry that out. So I gotta zoom again, man. There's lots of zooming going on. I'm in my using my stereo microscope again, but I'm zooming in really close here, trying to lay this thing down on the ground a bit. And as they say in the world of watchmaking, that's in there right some good. We have to lay that down on the bench a bit. So down even further here, because I want to be able to take my screwdriver and wedge that in there. And that dial washer looks like it's squished right in. It's been in there for a long time, folks. A long time. And oh, there we go. So I'm going to show you a close-up of the dial washer now. See if you can see that. Is that visible? See that focus? There's the dial washer. And that would add additional weight to the balance, which would slow down the watch. So I just want to dump that dial washer. And I don't need to keep it because I've got other dial washers, but that's going to take some weight off the balance. And I just work that off by just using the screwdriver to push downward as I just rock it back and forth off the screw. And there it is. It's just sitting on my mat. One dial washer. I'm just going to move that out of the way. And now I want to put that screw back exactly where it came from. So I'll line the balance up again. And just to confirm, that came from the middle. I believe came from this position here. Just look here closely. Yeah, it came from right in there. So that's 1, 2, 3 away from the arm. And if I look over here, it should be 1, 2, 3 away from the arm for this one with its own dial washer. So I'm going to just put that right back. That's 1, 2, 3 away from the arm. Sorry again, I got my fingers in the way, but I need to be able to do this work. And I just, maybe if I put the camera on the other side, what do you think? Let me just take my, some people have very professional videos and they don't talk while they're doing. There we go, we're back in business. I just moved the camera to the other side, so now I can get my fingers in here. You'll see what I'm doing. So this is a very good camera position actually, so I have to remember this for next time. Now I have to make sure I put this dial, this screw, balance screw, back in the right place. And I don't know how much tolerance this little hole has here and how often this thing has been taken out, but you can strip it, so you got to watch that really carefully. So here I'm just moving it into place like this and allowing the balance just to find its way. That way I don't put too much pressure on all this. So I'm going to just go in here and then tighten it. If you over tighten it, you're going to strip that screw, so you got to really watch that. I'm taking this out of the block, so when I release it, it's not going to put pressure. I'm not going to pull left or right on that. So now that was that one there, so I have to turn it around this way. And it's going to be this one right here. So let me just move the balance into place again. And I think I had it in this hole here. Is that right? Maybe not. I'll just throw it into that one there, which is fine. And then it's this screw right over here. So this one right here, I believe, is the one that needs to be removed. So once again, I'm going to look at this. Yeah, there's a washer there. I want to make sure I got this, the balance itself will move inside the hole here so I don't put any undue pressure on that. So I'm going to grab this screw right here. That's good. I'm actually going to take it out of the block right now because again I don't want to put pressure on that. So I'm going to see if this actually turns. Yes, it does. So So I'm holding the balance extremely lightly right now, so I don't have any issues with there. I'm going to rest this down back in here. I'll just put this aside here because I want to make sure that goes back exactly where it came from. And then now I've got to peel that washer off of this screw. So one thing you can do is when you have this pinched in here, there is a chance that this will go flying. So you got to be very careful that you don't cause the actual screw to go flying, because you'll have to look for that screw, or you'll have to find another matching set of screws that are exactly the same. So be very patient when you're doing this, because you don't want to lose that screw. So I'm putting pressure on the screw itself and just kind of wedge this, my world's smallest screwdriver, in here to see if I can wedge that screw off. Yeah, this is the fun part, folks. Looks like it wants to come off, but it's giving me trouble. It just rotated, which is a good thing. There we go. So I got the screwdriver in, there we go. So it's loosening that up right now, and so now it's loose. Now I don't want to play with the threads here of that screw, because when you go to screw that back in, if the threads are gone, you're not going to be able to screw that back in. So I'm using a really light touch, and I'm just barely touching the dial washer as I work it off back and forth, and eventually it'll just come to the end there and flop off on me on the mat. There we go. So that's the second dial washer, and I just have to grab that dial washer. I think it was Nickel Silver that told me, hey, there might be dial washers on there. I was like, are you serious? So somebody actually put dial washers on this watch, right? And let me look at this and make sure I put it back in the exact right place. And just want to get this thing screwed in just a bit, so I don't have to sweat anymore. And I got to adjust my stereo microscope, and it is a beautiful stereo microscope. I think it's a DZS 70, I think. So I'm just very carefully turning this here. I'm trying not to cause any undue pressure on the balance, because I want to be able to put this in, and I don't want to strip the threads on the screw. So I'm just adjusting the microscope again, and there's kind of a close-up of what I'm doing right there. Let me see, where do I move my camera? Oh, I apologize, I think I've got the camera inverted again. So when you see me screw something tighten, it looks like it's loosening, but it's just the inversion of the camera, I think. I apologize if it looks that way. Yeah, it is. I just looked at it in my on the screen, and it is inverted. I'm sorry. You can have your money back. Now when I drop this onto the mat, I can just let this go, and it'll go down on the mat, and it's not going to harm the pivot. So that's done. So those dial washers are taken off. The guide pins, or the adjustment pins here, index pins I think they're called, they've been squished tighter. So now all I have to do is reassemble this balance. I do this in a few ways. Sometimes I go from the top, sometimes I go from the side. I think I'll just rest the balance down and try to go from the top this time. Or I do this, and I come from the top, put it in, and then tighten it. So, but I'm not going to do this under camera, because I really have to shut up and concentrate to do this job properly. So thanks for watching this part, and let's see how well this does to regulate the watch. So I just show you this here. I was able to just drop the balance with the stud right on top there. I figured I'd turn that on and then make sure that hairspring is inside. So like I did before, I'm going to tighten this side first just a bit, and that allows that hairspring to actually go down a bit, instead as opposed to the other way. And so I'm just going to grip this. I've got no gloves on right now because I can't grip this balance with gloves on. I just have to make sure that I don't foul this at all. And it's nice and tight. So that balance is in there. See that slip there? You really got to watch if you slip, you don't go into the hairspring. If you do that, it's a whole other game. I'm slipping away, which is nice. But I think that this is tight now. Yeah, that's good enough. That's tight. So there we go. That's the balance complete. Let me grab that before I get more fingerprints on it. And put that on the tack. And then I can just rest for a few seconds. So there's the balance tack here. And I'm just going to put this right on top and then relax for a few seconds here. And there we go. That's on the tack. So there you go. That's the balance complete. Actually, that was a lot easier to put on than I thought it would be, because I just held the balance cock on one side and the hairspring on, or the balance of the hairspring on the other side, and I just moved it downward and made sure that the hairspring itself got in between the pins. So that was that worked well. So, and like I said, I've done all the work. I've actually taken those weights off of the balance. I did not know those were there. So once again, a shout out to Nickel Silver for allowing me to look at that, or for giving me some advice and said, hey JD, look at that, and that might be the problem. And there's also a channel out there, and let me get my, while I'm chatting away here, let me get my my YouTube out so I don't screw this up, because I want to give a kudos to an individual who's been writing back to me and helping me here. So this is, other than Sonny Morehouse, what do we have here? Yada yada yada. I'm looking for the channel. I'm having a hard time. And I'm just going through all my comments here on the tube of you. And I know I've got that channel here somewhere. So it's not George V. So thanks, George V out there. And Rick, I think it's Cunyon. Rick Cunyon, who said great video and basically really appreciates the work. Chasen Croft out there, who's in there saying great job on that, good work again. And Sonny Morehouse, of course, who's like a #1 patron, I think, here. Torton, who had a guess of what that undercutter was, which was an undercutter, and all kinds of people here. And I'm looking for the individual who is giving me some direct advice. There's Bubba Smith, who's always giving me great stuff. I mean, these guys are experienced watchmakers, I'm sure. And I want to find the individual under my notifications who was nice enough to tell me what to do with all this stuff, which I was very impressed by. So let me find him really quickly. I'm going blind here. And there it is. So it's Watch Repair Tutorials. So you're looking at a gentleman here. It's watchrepairtutorials.com. I should flip my camera because you're not going to be able to read it, but if you just listen to me for a second. Watch Repair Tutorials, and the individual looks like, and this is just so he gets as many hits on his site as possible.
I would guess that the vast majority of new
there he is. So go to his site.
Many more experience.
There he is there, and I'm telling you, this gentleman knows his stuff, and he's a brilliant watchmaker, and has helped me here. I'm sorry about all the noise here. I need to pause and just show you what this looks like, and you'll see him. Watch Repair Tutorials. It's inverted. I apologize. It says in Klingon, Rakahara Hakto Sel Erothak. That's Klingon. I need to invert my camera. So, once again, Watch Repair Tutorials is what you should be looking at on YouTube, and you'll find this gentleman. And I think I've got the right camera on here, so So here he is. Hopefully he's not going to get mad at me for copyright infringement and stuff, but I think this guy is like the best. So the best, there's other guys that are really good, but this guy does an exceptional job. He's an actual watchmaker, and I think you should be a patron and join his site. I don't consider this guy competition. He's just way too smart for me to consider as competition. I'm basically learning from him. He's giving me some advice. So there you go. So that's the gentleman, and here is the balance complete. So now my job is simply to put the balance back in the watch and see if everything is good. And I'm going to check to make sure that the hairspring is still going through, and it is, which is good. And I'll just put this balance back in the watch, which means I got to put power on the watch and slip the balance in. So I'm going to get back when it's in. So all I can say is, oh my God, it took me a long time to get the balance back in and the pivots back in those holes. It's I don't think I've ever taken that long. This has been another at least 10 minutes. It just didn't want to find home. So I finally found home on it, and now I just have to get the screw back in nicely. There we go. I dressed my screwdrivers today, by the way. And you should always dress your screwdrivers, because they need to be flat on the end, first of all. Because if they're not flat on the end, you can have other problems. I'm holding this down at the stick just lightly, and then I'll just, once I get that in place, I just put a little bit of pressure on the screw here, and then we're good. And now I just have to wind this up, and we'll put it in the time grapher and see what it's doing. All right, so we got the time grapher working now, and I've got, let me look at what this looks like here. E-timer. And there's my head way down below. All right, just so you don't go blind with my bald head, I've got the results here. It's plus 132. I took off 2 timing washers on both screws. They were near the balance arms. Amplitude is running around 223. Look at the bead error, folks. Look at the bead error. 0.09, 0.12, and the amplitude's, 227. Oh my God, this is excellent. So, and if I can actually, let me just do this while you're watching. I'm going to go down and dirty on this watch, and let's see if I can adjust it. So let me get a camera up here. I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. Maybe gonna lose control because I think I like it. I like it. There you go. So that's, the rate is not doing too bad. I'm farting with it right now a bit, but the rate is not doing too bad. And I'm going to adjust that rate now and see if I can get that a bit better. But look at that amplitude and the bead error. I've got good stuff happening right now. So I'm going to turn my head around, because if I don't, I'm going to hit the camera when I do this. So, and I got to get in dirty, so I'm going to disappear for a second out of camera, because I want to just move that back a bit. And what did that do? Now I want to slow it down. So I'm trying to slow it down now. So I'm either speeding this darn watch up or I'm slowing it down. But I like the fact that I've removed those washers, and I'm not sure who thought that was needed. I think the problem was that it was so poor with respect to those pins that were separated too much. I'm trying to very carefully do this so I don't ruin anything. Put too much pressure on my screw. So now this watch is slowing down for me nicely. Plus 172, and I'm just hoping I don't have the opposite issue here, but right now plus 171, and I haven't run out of room here slowing this watch down, which is good. I'm kind of in the center between fast and slow. So I'll crank this down even more and see what it's going to give me. Look at that. I'm really liking the results here. I'm at plus 33 and I still have more room to move. So this is very good. Plus 33, and look at that beat. The beat error of 0.32, and if you look at the screen here, you can let me just point to that in a second here. Right up here, you can see the little dots for the beat error, and they're pretty close. So it's doing really well. 0.32. Now I got to move it back. I have probably about 3 notches left in the slow side, so I don't want to have to. I love the fact there's not a lot of pressure. It's slowing down nicely. I've got great amplitude. And I think I went negative for a second there. And that's plus 8, plus 7. That's almost good right there. That's amazing. That is truly amazing. So I'm going to take it down just a bit more. I think I got just a little bit more. I could move this. Is that good? I think that's good. One more. What do we got here? Plus 8, plus 9. Now that is actually acceptable for a pocket watch. But I'm going to crank it back just a little bit more. What an adventure. And now I can see that I actually have to push the regulator because it's running out of real estate here. That's about it. That's as far back as I can go, but look what I'm getting for a rate. I'm impressed. I think I've done the job. Removing those screws was perfect. I have room on the meantime screws to screw those out a bit if I wanted to, but I don't want to play with that. I've done way too much on this watch already, and I've got it pretty much running really well. It's regulated really well. I don't really need to do anything more. I want to make sure that there we go. I want to make sure that regulator screw is still in the game. And I've got the watch a couple notches from the slowest it can go. And if I really needed to, I could actually adjust that so it wouldn't be an issue. So I think, I got to time this in all positions and play that game. But I'm not going to do this right now. I just think, I don't know, I'd like your opinion out there. Again, there's just some people out there that really helped me, and I think Nickel Silver, Old Hippie's another guy that's helped me over the years. That's on the watch page, but those two guys have been great. This watch is running really well. I could take the meantime screws and pull them out just a bit, which would give me more adjustment real estate with the regulator. But I'm not sure if I want to do that because this watch is acceptable right now the way it's running at 0.17 milliseconds beat error. Oh my God. So that is excellent. So that's the video for today. I didn't bother with any blue or green screen of death here. I got an old guitar in the back. That was my first guitar. That was a guitar from the late 60s, I think, when I got that guitar. So I've been playing a long time, and that was a Japanese special from the Sears catalog, in case you're curious. Anyway, that's it. That's the video for today. I just like to thank everybody for sticking with me here, but I've got phenomenal results with this particular watch. Very happy with where it's at. I may actually, like I said, I may take the meantime screws and pull them out a bit, which gives me more kind of gives me better real estate with respect to the slow fast, because right now I'm right at the very back end of slow, and I want to be able to have it centered so you can adjust back and forth. And all I need to do is turn those meantime screws out a bit, and that will give me that. So that's going to be easy to do. So that's it for the video, and thanks for watching my channel. Please subscribe. This has been quite the adventure. Thank you very much for putting up with me, and it was those stupid extra dial washers that caused the issue, or the weights, the extra washers that were added to the balance screws. 2 of them, and they weighed a lot. So thanks out there for Nickel Silver for finding that for me, and the rest of you for supporting my channel. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.